Welcome back to another episode of Pain Points with the World Meets Business. One half of the team here, Darius Bell, along with Samson Jagoras. And we jump in every week with you guys and we talk about marketing, brand, entrepreneurship, economics. But today, of all days, we're going to talk about our man 47 right here.
Hey.
Because Donald Trump is the president of the United States. President-elect. Let me correct myself. President-elect. And of all days, today is also episode number 47. So this was meant to be. We should have told you guys we already knew this was going to happen, but we kept it under wraps.
Yeah.
And pretty soon he'll be on the show here in just a matter of time.
Yep, exactly right. I hope so. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be great to get him on here. He would have a blast.
Well, I wanted to kick it off on a lighter note because I saw this over the weekend and I saw it trending again this morning. So I thought we would just share something funny to break the ice.
Yes. You want me to pull it up or I got it?
Yeah, pull it up.
All right, cool.
So did you see?
I did not see this. Okay.
Oh my God. So you got to watch it. So his team, so you got to see number 3. He's in the upper.
I see him right here.
Yeah, upper part of the video there, and his team is just going lights out. And every time he's just turning and running the other direction. He's not even going for the rebound because he has so much faith in his teammates just sinking buckets.
Okay, let me press play.
And right now, if you can see, it's Auburn versus Vermont, and it's 62-22 in the second.
Blowing them out.
Yeah.
Of being able to see great contest early. Step back 3. Highly contested by this Auburn team. Quick trigger and connects.
Look at him.
Kelly off the dribble. Bang! All I can see him say is wow. Wow is right. Here's Kelly. Holy moly! From Opelika. Wow.
Being interesting. So you know what's funny about that is I saw that pop up, but it was for a different reason. They were saying he was pouting the whole time.
Yeah, he might be pouting, but I don't know.
Draining buckets. They were pointing out how every time he just wanted some of the action, nobody would pass him the ball.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. So it had me cracking up. He was just the one where he's got his hands on his knees. That one had me dying. That one was hilarious.
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, they were clearly dominating this team. So,
oh my gosh, 62-22 plus 40 in basketball. I mean, that's crazy.
All right, man. Well, let's shift into the world we live in. Our court, our game. We got our good friends over at Bravos. You pulled up.
Yeah. So our good friends. I wish. So we've been talking about Bitcoin on this pod for quite a while, and we've been talking about just the uniqueness of the protocol, uniqueness of what Bitcoin has to offer, and even Bitcoin on the balance sheet as a small to medium-sized business owner, and what that might look like instead of saving in dollars, saving in Bitcoin. But it was a pretty big move over the past week since the election to see Bitcoin officially have its first daily close above 80K. And so if we're just looking at this chart pattern, kind of, if you want to blow that up a little bit, going back to my trading days of being a commodities trader, I learned how to technically trade. And so what you're looking at there is what we would call a cup and handle or a bull flag, right? And if you just kind of trace it up like a pendant up, and that top pattern kind of makes like a pendant at the top, that's usually considered a continuation pattern. So the market kind of moves into the previous resistance, which you can see over on the left, and it starts to consolidate after a pretty serious run up, right? You can see we moved from 23 to like, 24, mid 24, had a nice breakout. And then you would never want to see the market just continually go straight up without some sort of consolidation. So consolidation is actually pretty healthy. But there was a post from a guy that we follow in the Twitter sphere for SMB stuff, and his name's Eric Sue. I think it's Sue, HSU. He's a M&A attorney, super sharp guy, but was asking the question, like, what's happening in the market? So one of the things I love about technicals is they tend to kind of show you what's already happening in the market. It's already kind of priced in or baked into the market. And then you can look at all the fundamentals, and do the fundamentals support that? Or is there some counter intelligence that would make you think otherwise? Right. So if you just look at those two things, the bull flag, the cup and handle, that's a technical chart pattern that would signal continuation. I would say that we have a Bitcoin president, right? Somebody that's Bitcoin friendly, or at least that's what's been communicated. So the market's following that. I would say that we are now reaching, we're talking about Bitcoin in the middle of an election, right? So we're reaching mass market saturation. And if you look at the law of diffusion of innovation, it basically says that the mass market won't do something until somebody else has done it first, right? And so we're officially crossing that chasm, as Jeffrey Moore would talk about in his book, Crossing the Chasm, right? Getting from like 18.5% into the first part of the early majority, which would be about 34%, is really the hardest and most challenging part, but that's the peak point of the bell curve. And then you also have this thing known as the S curve, or the S adoption curve, which shows you kind of how technology gets adopted in the market. It looks very similar to like the diffusion bell curve, but it essentially says for however long it took to get 10% adoption, we'll see 90% adoption in the same time period. It took 10 years to get 10% adoption in Bitcoin, which means, and that was like circa like a couple years ago, which means we're going to see 90% adoption over the next 10 years. And so all of those things aligning with what's happening in the market, what's happening in the kind of the sentiment for Bitcoin, the fact that my boomer parents are talking about it, it tells you a lot about where we're at and where we're going. And if you don't have it on your balance sheet, you should probably start considering it.
Yeah. And also realizing too, like it's not a, I guess I would say it's not a nice to have.
Correct.
It's a need to have, because I was just telling someone this election night, actually, they were asking me about Bitcoin, and they had sold all theirs. And I was like, why would we do that? And they were like, well, they had various different reasons. But we were just talking about it. And ultimately, I think the fix was when I shared that and really went into it, it was like, oh, okay, I probably made a mistake there.
Yeah, I think it's just an alternative to saving in cash, right? Because like me personally, I liquidated some Bitcoin in order to go buy another business.
Right.
And so that's how you would do it, right? I'm storing in Bitcoin. I'm moving that over to something else that can be another exchange medium, i.e. business, right? Make more cash flow from that, go buy more Bitcoin.
That's for sure.
That's the game.
Yeah, I just think in the long term, like it isn't always going to be available.
Yeah. So did this person sell it just to sell it because they thought they'd gotten good profits, or
they sold it because they didn't understand what they were doing, and they wanted to get out and wanted some money, and they didn't understand,
Yeah.
They didn't understand. And it's not the first person I've met that has actually sold quite a bit, all of their position. They just didn't understand.
Mad right
Yeah,
now.
they just didn't understand. Yeah, they didn't understand. And because like you just talked about, it's taken how long to become this, and you could add the last couple of years. Even the last couple of years, there's still been a lot of friction, despite it being big on X and other platforms. There's still been a lot of friction. Look how long it took for Larry Fink to even talk about it. And a lot of people take their information from third parties and other people.
It took Larry Fink that long because he needed to get his firm on the right side of the same thing for BlackRock. But segue off into that. So there's a great post that came out this morning from Jason Yanowitz of Blockworks.
Yep.
Blockworks, I'd say, would be like the market watch, all things crypto. And man, he laid it out. Basically kind of piggybacking off of what I was just talking about. And he says, there are 4 phases of a bull market. Buckle up. We just entered the most fun phase. Welcome to stage 3. Now, if you're listening to this is not investment advice, but
full disclosure.
So he says, as a reminder, stage 1 was rebirth. This occurred in January 2023 through January 2024. In rebirth, bear market exhaustion is prevailing feeling, right? People are like, oh, where's this going to go? This is never going anywhere. And it ultimately leads people to kind of get pushed out, which is kind of what you were just talking about. Apathy kills all narratives. Your friends in the media still focus on the bear market blowups. Layoffs keep happening.
Mm-hmm.
However, prices quietly recover, right? BTC rallies 3x, but you barely notice. You're still underwater on everything. Only the deepest crypto narratives you have seen 2+ cycles realize that the bull market has begun. Most people are still in disbelief that this is the bull market. Stage 2 was excitement. This started in February 2024 and ended last week. Some coins nearly all-time highs. Narratives come back, though there's only a few per quarter. Everyone in crypto understands that we are now in a bull, but it's odd. Your friends still aren't texting you, right? But get ready. They're about to, right? You're a weird combo of excited and anxious. Layoffs mostly end, but hiring hasn't ramped up again. The space feels insular. No one leaves, no one comes in, and generally life is good. Your crypto homies are winning. This is the calm before the storm. Stage 3 is euphoria. This is where we're at now. Euphoria officially began on November 5th with the presidential election. This is a beautiful time. Everyone is making money, but the grifters haven't rushed in yet.
That's funny.
Take moments to really enjoy this time, as it will be brief. And there's a picture for those of you that are listening. Bitcoin hits all new high on Trump presidential victory. Going down. It says, everything you own is about to blow past all-time highs if it hasn't already. There used to be a few new narratives every quarter. Now there's a new narrative every week. By the end, it will become daily. There's no narrative exhaustion, just good ideas. Everyone with a following is a genius and has ideas on the new narrative. Someone will have made money on the coin of the week, and I can assure you they will post about it. This will be frustrating, but remember, everyone has a bag to shill, and no one posts their L's. With a new narrative comes new coins. Every day there will be new coin going up. You won't own most of them. You'll be up 8% that week, but you'll seethe at the idea that you missed the big new coin. New coins plus new narratives equal FOMO, fear of missing out. If you're not careful, FOMO will eat you alive. Some advice: understand your approach and its trade-offs. Trading every day, know your job and mental health will suffer. Building, know you'll miss some big trades. Everything has trade-offs. Understand them. Don't try to do everything or you will not make it. And then he says, back to stage 3. The private market is about to get white hot. It starts with allocations. They woke up on November 6th, grossly underexposed to crypto. They're calling the VCs and the hedge funds to allocate. These firms will announce big new funds sooner than you realize. Late stage venture has been dead for 2+ years. It comes roaring back. Big funds and an IPO market means the Series B through D companies can raise again. Big raises become the norm. Series A deals fly off the table. This pulls in new world-class founders. Hiring starts to get competitive. Protocols offer crazy token packages to top talent. If you're a founder, you have 3 to 6 months max to hire the best of the best at reasonable salaries. Then you're chasing. We're mainstream again. Forbes, Bloomberg, CNBC, they love crypto. Your friends text you about Cardano. Your financial advisor recommends 5% BTC allocation. Tradeify raises to tokenize things. Then at the moment in midpoint 2020, weird things start to happen. Enter stage 4. Disconnection. Fortune 500s announce massive BTC purchases. Athletes and artists get involved. Crypto permeates culture. VCs throw due diligence out the window. Grifters raise millions and become main characters. In stage 4, everyone believes it's going up forever. Delusion seeps into decisions. This stage could also be described as insanity. Nothing makes sense anymore. There used to be new narratives weekly. So all that to say is now's actually a decent time. There's a saying in the world of trading that says pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. And don't be greedy. Once you kind of reach that stage where it seems like this is going to go up forever, that should be your first warning sign that it's time to exit.
That's good. That's good. I really like that. It makes me, I do think of one thing. Again, this isn't financial advice. I think there needs to be talk when we're having conversations with our friends and they start texting us and all of these things, and that people are looking on Twitter and LinkedIn and everything else, is that people still need to understand that the way I would put it is Bitcoin and crypto are not the same thing.
Yes, agreed.
Like they just have to, that piece is the one part that not concerns me, but in the storm, in the nonstop is like, there's a big difference, and you got to take the time to learn that, or we can send some resources. We can link some resources in the description. We got enough people to point out that there's a difference between the two. And so some of that frenzy, some of that flow, and try and do that with the other thing. Like don't do that with your Bitcoin.
You can definitely make some quick cash on all these other cryptos. Yeah. But two different asset classes, in my personal opinion, right? One's an asset, one's a crypto. They're two totally different. Bitcoin asset, crypto. It's internet money.
Yeah. So I think that was dope. That was cool. I actually was getting excited while you were reading that. Like, oh yeah,
I mean, Warren Buffett says that this happens in all markets, right? But be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. What happens when the market hits that euphoric stage is people keep doubling, tripling, quadrupling in, and then the market corrects. The time you want to be doubly, tripling, and quadrupling in is when the market is correcting, not when the market's going up.
Right.
Right. So, but we don't do that. The fear in our brain says the exact opposite. Like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling, so I should stop putting money into this. But that's actually the time when you want to be doing it the most. And if you looked at that chart that he was showing, you could see the market kind of consolidate and then quietly climb, consolidate, climb. Nobody was paying attention at that point. Nobody was even talking about it. Yeah. The moment you know to get out is when your friend who never trades in this stuff all of a sudden tells you that he just bought some. You're like, okay, time to exit.
Noted.
Yeah.
I will note that.
Yeah.
All right. Next up here, we got a post from Tim Denning, and
yeah. So this was great, man. This is from our guy Naval Ravikant. And I think it's just a sentiment for where we're at in business, culturally, societally. I would say Naval is way ahead of the curve.
Oh,
he's talking specifically in this about wokeism and how the market is shifting quite drastically. He says, so Tim Denning says, this man destroyed wokeism, Naval Ravikant. He was an early investor in Notion, Twitter, and Uber, and is worth $600 million. He's been on fire lately on X. Here's Naval's updated philosophy. Number one, if you aren't volunteering to fight in a particular war, you shouldn't be advocating for it. Rip off the Ukrainian badge. Pretending to care should be illegal. Virtue signaling for status points is horrific. We need to call these people out. Number two, upcoming deregulation wave will create an economic sonic boom. It's hard to do business because stupid people run most countries. Increasing the size of any government leads to an overregulation and increased stupidity, which is a part of the policy that Donald Trump is pursuing, which is to release some of the regulation. Number three, go woke, go broke. The woke mindset has created more poverty than capitalism ever did. While they spread wokeism, they also devalue their currency by creating more of it out of thin air. If wokes cared about minorities, they stopped letting them be poor with high inflation and money printing. Right. And then number four, if you don't lie awake at night thinking about it, you don't want it badly enough. Chase what you can't stop thinking about. Hang around other psychopaths, maniacs, and misfits because fitting in.
Yeah, forget about fitting in.
5, replace all desires with a single desire. This is another way to describe obsession. Lukewarm people in their comfort zone rarely change the world. Right now, we need more builders and fewer critics. Number 6, the single biggest wealth hack is living in the future. Futurists are crucial. They see the world better than it is. People like Balalji, I don't know how to say that guy's name, and Lex Friedman. Yeah. If you want to be wealthy, find out how to use AI or blockchain to solve problems. 7, any government that slows down the development of spacecraft, medicine, robots, and intelligence is an impediment to civilization. This is 99% of governments. Vote them out. Number 8, it's a race between technologically driven abundance and government-driven poverty. Governments rarely make things better. They're terrible at spending, and they go into huge debt. The government isn't going to save you. Save yourself. Number 9, the real tax is society forcing otherwise productive people to pay attention to politics. Attention is the new gold / Bitcoin. Stop giving it to mainstream news that wants to manipulate you. Use social media, curate your own newsfeed. Number 10, colleges have become status stamping machines. Use the $100K you were going to spend on college to start a business. You'll learn 10x more and you won't go woke. That's my favorite one. Number 11, nothing will attract people to you as much as your values. Stand for something and build a freaking movement. Life is too short to be mediocre. That's what this pod's all about. Number 12, it's rare for intelligence and drive to intersect in one person. When they do, look out. Hang around obsessed people. Judge intelligence based on whether people get what they want in life. Memorizing information equals stupidity. Number 13, if you have secret information, secret police, secret courts, you are ruled by a secret government. Reject online censorship. All of the info on UFOs should be public. Demand secrets like JFK files are released. Number 14, the most interesting people in tech are autistic tinkerers. ADHD and autism are often superpowers. 15, leaders come, leaders go, but don't change the rules of the game. Censorship is changing the rules of the game. Lawfare is changing the rules of the game. Importing voters is changing the rules of the game. Time to change people who are changing the rules of the game. 16, pay the world whatever it takes to leave you alone to think. True wealth is free time to do whatever you want. If you have no time to think, you're worse than bankrupt, and mental illness will creep in. Number 17, the smarter you are, the faster you see through any given game. Life is a video game. The lamest game is the corporate ladder. It leads you to nowhere. Exit the rat race and set yourself free. You deserve it. One life. Don't play stupid games with stupid, stubborn people. Amen. Naval.
Yeah. Naval, man. I actually read that over the weekend, so I was actually happy to see you pull it up. And I actually had that one of the second to last threads was actually something we're going to speak on later, but it's perfect. I really appreciate it because Naval is the kind of thinker so he's not just a successful entrepreneur who has some thoughts about government. He's someone who actually is really a very deep thinker and has broad knowledge, whether it's physics, philosophy, and mathematics, writing, and I really have appreciated to see how he's become way more bold in the last 6 months. Like he's obviously had his own voice, but I noticed it a couple months ago, and then it kept going, and then he was on Megyn Kelly, and then he's not even like fanboying for like the Republican Party or the conservative movement. He's just saying like, dude, where there's corruption, I'm going to speak on it. Where there's nonsense, I'm going to speak on it. And it's really,
he's advocating for the free market is really what he's advocating for.
Yeah. Very, very good. Really appreciate him. So actually, you might not know this, but this next segment, this next thing we're going to look at actually comes by way of a Naval Ravikant recommendation. Cool. Because I've been rereading the Almanac of Naval Ravikant.
That's interesting that we both pulled that post without it.
Yeah. So really I've been rereading that, and I was just going through some of his suggested readings at the end, and I came across Farnham Street, which is by a guy named Shane Parrish, who writes a lot on clarity and mental models. But he has a great post, and I'll pull it up here for us. Let me see what we got here. Bite-sized wisdom. So he has the Munger operating system. And so basically, I'll make this brief. He has several different points here on what he believes are Charlie Munger's sort of operating system. What are the components of his operating system? And he goes into depth on many different things. And it's actually a great platform to actually go through. This dude really understands his stuff and knows it. But I wanted to pull up these first 5 or so things that he mentioned of Charlie Munger's way of thinking about business and life and personal philosophy. And so we have the Munger operating system, how to live a life that really works. I'm going to scroll down to this first one. He says, to get what you want, this is Charlie Munger, to get what you want, deserve what you want, trust, success, and admiration are earned. It's such a simple idea. It's the golden rule, so to speak. You want to deliver to the world what you would buy if you were on the other end. That right there is huge. There's no ethos, in my opinion, that is better for any lawyer or any person to have. By and large, the people who have this ethos win in life and don't win just money, not just honors. They win the respect, the deserved trust of the people they deal with, and there is a huge pleasure in life to be obtained from getting deserved trust. But that first point, you want to deliver to the world what you would buy if you were on the other end. Like, that's pretty significant.
So, I mean, it's a great way to think about. This is one of the reasons why people who build products that solve their own problem do so well, right? Because they're saying, hey, this is what I would expect for this price point, or this is what I would expect for this service, this experience. This is what it should feel like, look like. That's why great founders think that way.
Yeah, and you just extend it across the board, right? You just, whatever it is. All right, second piece, the second tidbit here. Learn to love and admire the right people, alive or dead. A second idea that I got very early was that there is no love that's so right as admiration-based love. And that love should include the instructive dead. Somehow I got that idea and I lived with it all my life. And it's been very, very useful to me. So again, pointing people to that broadening of knowledge. You can, there's a clip I saw recently where he's talking about how someone asked him, Charlie Munger, who would you like to speak to, alive or dead, or something like that? And he was like, nobody. I already spoke to them all. And it's because he read all their books and he spent time with their writings.
Good.
Yeah. Acquiring wisdom, number 3, acquiring wisdom is a moral duty as well as a practical one. He says, and there's a corollary to that proposition, which is very important. It means that you're hooked for lifetime learning. And without lifetime learning, you people are not going to do very well. You're not going to get very far in life based on what you already know. You're going to advance in life by what you're going to learn after you leave here. If civilization can only progress when it invents the method of invention, you can only progress when you learn the method of learning.
Good.
All right, number 4, attain fluency on big multiple disciplinary ideas of the world and use them regularly. What I noticed since the really big ideas carry 95% of the freight, it wasn't at all hard for me to pick up the big ideas from all the big disciplines and make them a standard part of my mental routines. Once you have the ideas, of course, they are no good if you don't practice. If you don't practice, you lose it. So I went through life consistently practicing this model of multidisciplinary approach. Well, I can't tell you what it's done for me. It's made life more fun. It's made me more constructive. It's made me more helpful to others. It's made me enormously rich. You name it, that attitude really helps. So I won't read the rest of it. Next one here, and we're almost done. Learn to think through problems backwards as well as forward. The way complex adaptive systems work and the way mental constructs work, problems frequently get easier, and I would even say usually are easier to solve if you turn it around in reverse. In other words, if you want to help India, the question you should ask is not, how can I help India? You think, what's the worst damage in India? What would automatically do the worst damage in India, and how do I avoid it? You think they are logically the same thing, but they are not. Those of you who have mastered algebra know that inversion frequently will solve problems which nothing else will solve. And in life, unless you're more gifted than Einstein, inversion will help you solve problems that you can't solve in other ways.
I've heard that before.
This is the last one that I think is really important. If you're unreliable, it doesn't matter what your virtues are. You are going to crater immediately. So doing what you have faithfully engaged to do should be an automatic part of your conduct. You want to avoid sloth and unreliability. So be reliable, avoid sloth, learn to think through your problems backwards, understand the big multidisciplinary ideas around the world that are shaping the world, acquire wisdom, learn to love and admire the right people, dead or alive, and ultimately to get the success you want, be someone who deserves that. And you can measure that by, are you the kind of person that embodies that and delivers the things you want into the world?
That I want to pin on that multidisciplinary idea.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I get so interested in like geopolitics, world history, right? History doesn't repeat, but it tends to rhyme. It's so interesting to me because it allows you to think in more of a first principles mindset, because you kind of see where the world is going versus using parallel structures. Well, this is the way things are, right? One prime example of that would be today, like people are complaining about tariffs. Like, oh, everything that you're going to go buy is going to become more expensive. And it's like, exactly. That is exactly the point, is we are trying to reduce consumerism We're trying to promote stateside manufacturing and production and make that better so that we can move from being a consumer economy, which is where we were pre-World War II. We were a production economy, right? And we didn't participate. We became a consumer economy. We're trying to go back to that, right? So that's an idea of like, I'm trying to understand the grand scheme of things. If you understand that, all this chaos that's going on around us gets a lot clearer, because you're thinking, well, what's going to happen? Well, it's like manufacturing, production, all those things are coming back to the United States, which is great for America, right?
Mm-hmm. Next up here, we have Shane Parrish, which Shane Parrish is I want to make sure I give credit to Shane Parrish. So the blog we just read was, again, Shane Parrish, Farnham Street. Just search Shane Parrish FS and you can find it. So coming out of that, we talk about multidisciplinary ideas, the big ideas, the wins, the waves, the shifts. Greg Isenberg. Are you familiar with Greg Isenberg?
I'm not.
So Greg Isenberg is an entrepreneur, an idea guy. I follow him on Twitter, and he's the real deal. He's constantly contributing ideas and what if this happens, looking at trends, but he also has run a couple of successful businesses and built a really nice agency. I forget the name of his agency, but it's really neat because they work with creators in a way that's completely unique. It's like a blue ocean. And but he's really smart, really savvy guy around tech, and he's constantly talking to tech entrepreneurs and SaaS builders, and so he positioned on X over the weekend that we are in the middle of a great SaaS repricing, and so he says, I don't think we've fully priced in what it means that a SaaS can be copied in 24 hours with AI and what that's going to do to the 500 billion plus SaaS market. How will it play out? New SaaS software pops up left, right, and center at low prices and creator-led. SMBs start to abandon their traditional SaaS providers, choosing between AI and clones at 1/10 the price of creator-led brands they trust. Why pay $1,000 a month when you can copy costs $10? When a copy costs $10. Enterprise stays with the current vendors. They're buying stability, not features, but even they demand 50% discounts when 100 competitors exist. 10,000 plus new AI first companies split $100 billion in SMB revenue. Top SaaS companies keep enterprise, but at lower margins. Everybody pays less, market gets repriced, and total addressable market expands. Winners become indie hackers, bootstrap founders, and incumbents who move fast and break things. Losers become complacent incumbent SaaS companies. The great SaaS repricing is coming.
I mean, I would say that's true for every major company, right? That reaches maturity.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of think that, they don't have to innovate anymore. They don't have to think about their pricing or where the market's going and shift and pivot because they're just so big.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite part about business, is being able to disrupt that kind of model or thinking.
Yeah. And I think to his point, and even some of what Charlie Munger was saying, is this artificial intelligence is going to impact. We can see the direct ways it's going to impact, whether it's a accounting job, an assistant, but there's these structural impacts that I think it's going to impact. And I think that's really interesting for the entrepreneur, because it's going to, like he said, being able to copy something in 24 hours that allows you to compete. Now it lowers the barrier to entry. It also lowers the requirements on the number of people or things needed. And so it's really interesting, like really fascinating to see how industries and markets are going to be impacted by that, because that affects pricing, that affects your ability to sell, so it's very exciting.
It is exciting. It's also one of the reasons why I really think so attractive right now,
mm-hmm.
because you can't easily do that. You can't easily replace the skilled labor that it takes to build something from scratch, for example, right? There's innovation that supports it, like human in the loop automation, but you can't straight up just replace it like you can right now with AI. So white collar jobs are going to get slapped pretty hard. And we're already seeing this resurgence in blue collar, right? We're seeing trades coming back into high schools, people skipping college and going to trade schools, an alternative. There's a huge push for entrepreneurship through acquisition to buy these types of businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that'll continually be the case. One example of why it's like not easy to, we have some friends, they built a really successful automated framing company. They essentially manufacture these houses in a warehouse where they have very little to no waste. And then they take their framing team out, and what would normally take, call it 4 weeks to frame up a house, they can do it in 4 days. What would normally take 4 months to frame up an apartment complex, they can do in 4 weeks. It's pretty tremendous, but it took them nearly like $100 million to go and actually raise the money, buy the land, build the facility, get all the equipment and everything that they need to do in order to build this type of business, right? So not easily duplicatable, not easily disrupted. Even though there's technology involved and there's some AI and automation built in, it's not as easy as, hey, this guy just built this whatever email tool, and so did I for 10 cents, using AI.
It goes back to what we were talking about 2 weeks ago with Jeff Bezos, right? What's not going to change? Their issue in their sector in particular, housing, and construction.
Exactly right.
The robots ain't big enough yet.
They're not big enough, and using like wood framing is still the most productive way to do it. And they're saving, it is quote unquote green too, right? They're saving 20 to 30% material wastage.
Yeah, very exciting. So I thought you would get a kick out of what Greg had to say. He's a great follow on Twitter. Like,
I actually saw this. I think I saw that last night.
Okay.
So I didn't know who he was, but I read the post because I was thinking about that same topic.
Yeah, he's got a great pod too, like where he goes deep with some people. It kind of nerds out, which is fun if you really can ride with him.
Yeah.
All right. Next up here, we are going to talk about Spotify. I brought this up last week at the close of our show of how, they've been able to secure billions of views and billions and billions of eyeballs with effectively zero to low cost. And Tim Carden, a guy who we featured on the platform before, does a great job of talking about one of the ways that they've done it. They've done it a couple of different ways. And so Tim has this breakdown here. He says, this is one of the greatest marketing campaigns ever. It cost $0 in advertising and got Spotify over 1 billion views. 1 second, I'm going to take a sip. I feel my throat getting a little dry. Just for your ears, guys. Every tech company is desperately trying to copy them. The psychology behind Spotify's viral masterclass is unmissable. The story starts in 2015. Spotify already had a basic ear music feature that showed users their top songs. But when they noticed people sharing this data with their friends, they came up with a tweak that revolutionized music. Spotify Rap was born in 2016, a simple idea with a profound psychology behind it. Turn personal data into shareable stories. It had a remarkable effect on Spotify's growth. The numbers tell the story. From 30 million users in 2017 to 120 by 2021. But the genius isn't in the numbers, it's in the psychology. They carefully engineered virality through these 3 powerful triggers. 1, personalization, deep personalization. Spotify doesn't just show you data, they craft your personal narrative, which if you've received those, I've received them, they definitely try to over-personalize it to make it seem like this is your year, this is what you've been listening to. They track every moment of your musical journey, podcasts that get you through traffic, the songs you repeat at 2 a.m., and the songs that wake you up. They transform this data into an emotional story. The listening personality feature analyzes your habits and reveals your musical identity. Early adopter or dedicated replayer, genre explorer or loyal fan. They're basically building story into the listening experience and the using of their platform. The FOMO
effect. They're building identity as well, right?
The FOMO effect. Timing is everything, and Spotify's timing is perfect. They release Wrapped in early December when everyone's reflecting on this year, when social media reaches peak activity, but it's also not close enough to New Year where you're like, I need to get rid of Spotify. Yeah. So the impact, massive in 2020. App downloads surged 21% in a single week, but the way they build anticipation is the real genius. Artist teasers, mysterious app notifications, social media buzzing with speculation. By launch day, it's not just a campaign, it's a cultural movement. He's exaggerating a bit, but he's telling the truth. It is like an official day, and they look forward to it, and they even give you warnings that it's coming and stuff. Social currency. This is where Spotify's understanding of human psychology shines. They know we share things that make us look good. They express our identity, as you just pointed out. So they engineer every element for maximum social impact. Some examples: custom badges for music discovery, musical citizenship for genre exploration, insights showing how loyal a fan you are. Some of these might sound familiar. I'm going to skip that a little bit. The campaign gets more shares than Super Bowl commercials with $0 on advertising. They get millions of new users every December. So they've carved out part of the year that users continuously associate with Spotify. But there's a bigger lesson here for founders. The future of marketing isn't about interrupting people with ads. It's about creating something so personal, so valuable that people can't help but share it. Amen, Tim. Spotify proved help people express their identity and they become your marketers. Channel authenticity. Why? Because today's audiences crave personalities, not corporations. They want stories, not sales pitches. That's why the most successful founders are embracing personality in their marketing by building a personal brand. And here's why. Should we tune into this clip?
Yeah,
the true value of your personal brand is when you value yourself and others have valued you, and you're able to take criticism not as a tearing down, but as a point for reflection and to make yourself better. So as you move into the future and you launch your personal brand, I want you to do so passionately. I want you to fail spectacularly. Feel so passionately that you don't care that you failed, and then be self-aware enough to make it better and know the value that you bring to others. True value of your...
Yeah, he continues on down there. A personal brand attracts the right people automatically.
Yeah.
Customers who already trust you, investors who seek you out, top talent excited to join you, all while you sleep.
Right. The best marketing doesn't feel like marketing. It's your always on wrapped campaign. So then he plugs. So I thought that was a good thing to check out from Spotify, but also the latter portion. It's true, man. Right. It's like like you said, they injected identity, they injected story and personalization. But what they I think they really did. Yes, it's those things, those traditional things that we know, but I think also they understand who uses their platform. And so they understand that people who use our platform, actually, Naval talks about this. He talks about different games we play. And one of the games we play a lot right now is the status game play. Mm-hmm. Not everybody can be wealthy, but everyone can be influential and famous and get status. And that's what I think they really leaned into with Wrapped. It's like, this, identity, story, great personalization, but I get a chance to have some status, increase my status.
Yeah, what you listen to is a big part of who you are. We always had that one friend, like in high school, who was way ahead of the 8 ball on up-and-coming musicians. Yeah. So you'd be like, oh, have you heard about? I'm like, oh, yeah, man, I've been listening to them for years. You're like, dang, man, how does this guy always know who's coming up in the world or how they so far ahead? It's just because it was a part of their identity.
Right.
But one of the things that I think is interesting, right? So in tech, they would call this network effects, right? They would call it the ability to share and attract other people through the network by way of your users. Mm-hmm. But it's really just word of mouth. Like word of mouth still is special, but it's word of mouth with this ability to make it about the customer.
Right.
And that's kind of eye-opening for me when you put it that way, because I've never thought about it that way. We often ask for reviews, but that's very selfish, like for us, right? It doesn't like put the customer on a pedestal and say, hey, let me share your story as a testimonial, right? That's really what it is. It's a testimonial.
Right.
But you've done it in a way that is cool for the customer.
Yeah.
So like I'm thinking about like, what are the ways that you could do this for a local service-based business that really isn't technologically driven? I don't know what the answer is, but you could go and highlight all your partners, right? By like bringing content creator in and showing behind the scenes of this great partner that you work with and who they are and what they've built. Does nothing to do about you, but it helps elevate that person. And as a byproduct, they're going to share that video, which is then going to come back to you as an organization, right?
Right. No, I dig it. One thing how I talked about the status stuff. I'll just tell you one quick story. So this is why I say what I said too, is because I always get Spotify Wrapped. I get them, right? I'm a Spotify user. But I have no interest in sharing. Like it actually, for me, it's like, how much time have you wasted to a degree? That's sometimes how my mind goes. Like my mind goes to like, okay, what I'll look and see what songs I played repeatedly, but then I look at the time and then I say, okay, do I think that was an effective use of I've done this the last 3 years where I'm like, has this been an effective use of my time with this app? And so I don't get off on sharing that, I'm more so analyzing, like based on where I'm at, where I'm trying to go. So I think they really understand who their key users are that are going to take that and leverage it.
But I think that's the other point, though.
Oh, 100%. Oh, 100%. It's still valuable. It's incredibly valuable to me.
It's valuable because it allows you to audit your content and say, should I have been listening to that music? Should I spend more time listening to books or podcasts or whatever it might be, right? When am I listening? Oh, it's when I'm working out. Okay, that's good. But I could also use that time for something else, right?
Right, which actually buffers. The reason why I shared it because I think it buffers what Tim was saying of like how he broke down. Like they do understand the personalization in the story, and like you said, identity. Like it's not just status.
Yeah.
So we got drama back there. My little man, dude. My kids have been. Yeah. Anyways, all right. I think she's got it under control, and I'll cut that out. All right. So we got. We got 4 things left. I think they're really quick. I'm going to breeze through them and it will get us out of here, get you guys back to doing what you got to do. So next up, we're going to talk about some marketing math. And as you've been listening to this, you know that we've talked about Ryan Reynolds in the past, but marketing max, actually, there's a thread within a larger thread. I wanted to just share this particular portion of it. And he talks about the math behind not just Ryan Reynolds' marketing success, but really what he would think is, shapes success moving forward. And just think about our last segment just on Spotify. But he says the math behind his success, meaning Ryan Reynolds and all of, that he's done, is authenticity plus humor equals trust. Speed plus cultural relevance equals virality. Data plus storytelling equals conversion. Personal flaws plus marketing equals relatability. I thought that was just something that you all should consider. Authenticity plus humor equals trust. Speed plus cultural relevance equals virality, if that's what you want. Data plus storytelling equals conversion, if that's what you want. If you want relatability, you want to build, affinity, personal flaws plus marketing distribution, like how you get it out there.
I mean, real quick, just analyzing that previous Spotify post, right? Yeah. They used 2 of those, virality and conversion. So you get speed plus cultural relevance. They did all of the data packaging for you, so it's easy, and then you can share it, right? That's culturally relevant. And then they use the data to tell a story about who you are, and that leads to more conversions. That's their biggest uptick, right? Because people want to experience that.
Yep.
I think that's just a tremendous simplification that is much needed in marketing because it feels complex and ethereal to a lot of people, myself included at times, and I understand it. So I love that.
Yeah, dude. This next one here. So we know what happened last week, episode 47, and it got me thinking just about marketing. And the internet will give you, if you are someone who's willing to embrace what we have in terms of the tools, the outputs, the inputs, the channels, the amplification, all of this stuff. The internet actually, in particular social media, gives you endless supply of inspiration if you're willing to use it. Now you have to take the time to understand who you are, how you're going to create and get your technical chops up in certain ways. It's not a vast learning curve, but you do got to build some reps. But there's endless supply of inspiration when you figure out your lane, like your thing. When I say endless supply of inspiration, I don't mean go everywhere, do everything. I mean, figure out your thing and then lean into it. And I found this one guy, he does this consistently. He's he provides political commentary without really doing any commentary at all. He just takes perspectives that he thinks are ridiculous, and he matches them with his talents of making music. And so this guy here is, I don't know his actual name on X, but the liberal meltdown was trending after Trump won, right? And so my man went in and mashed up a Trump meltdowner.
I'm sorry. No.
I saw this. So good.
No. Why?
I mean, you got to commend her for her authenticity, right?
Uh-huh.
Why? Do you really hate me that bad?
Yeah.
The
breakdown. 100%. But yes, exactly. You can commend both of them for like, okay, he's got as we talked about Ryan Reynolds, he's got, speed and cultural relevance for virality, right? She's got some authenticity, personal flaws, different things in there. So I thought that was just a good example of like, there's endless examples. All right, last two here on the countdown. So this one it comes by way of Dan Martell, who I've really grown to admire and appreciate the way he carries himself as an entrepreneur. And he put out this post over the weekend. He says, 15 words that change how I see business. He says, my buddy Taki Moore doesn't wear shoes anywhere. When restaurants tell him he needs shoes to enter, he just leaves. Most people think that's crazy. I think it's brilliant. A while back, I asked him about about financial goals for his company. His response floored me. They don't inspire us, so I don't worry about them. Dan, it's simple. Healthy things grow. At first, it sounds too simple, too obvious, maybe even naive, but then it hits you. A healthy plant doesn't need forcing to reach the sun. A healthy relationship doesn't need love metrics. A healthy business doesn't need pressure to expand. Taki's built an empire around this truth. Feed what works, remove what doesn't. Let growth happen naturally. No forced metrics or artificial pressure, no unnecessary friction. No wonder he's so successful. He keeps everything healthy, everything aligned, everything real. And that's become my North Star. The more you feed the good, the more good shows up, the more good grows. Trust the natural order. Dan Martell.
It is really good. I mean, I guess you need to define what healthy looks like first.
Yeah, I thought it was such a thought-provoking one for the entrepreneurial community, because we kind of do have that affinity towards like, you measure what matters, you do, the numerical data analytical things that have in many ways shown themselves necessary. But to Taki's point of like, like if your marriage is healthy, whether you track it or not, right? Like you just know when you just know. And so, like, oh, the way I'm handling myself with my children is not healthy. Even if you don't acknowledge it, And so I think there is some credence to like, he didn't necessarily break it down, but there are some elements of like, what is a healthy business? Well, you can tell like, how do the people function with each other, right? Like, is the work getting done? Those, whatever it is, there's just ways you can probably dig into it. But I thought it was a great thought provoker because it kind of is a contrarian take. So.
No, I think it's great. I think my only counter to that is like, if you get your blood work done every single year and you analyze your blood panel and your hormones and your vitamins and your minerals, that's actually a leading indicator of what is actually healthy. And maybe some disease that's creeping up, right? And so you can feel healthy, but
and
still
not be healthy at all,
and not be healthy or trending towards disease, and you don't realize it. And so I think it's both. Yeah. I think the sentiment is he's probably a very big culture guy, right? And so he really understands that like your people are not motivated by becoming a billion, right? They're motivated by the work that they're doing, right? They're
Mhm.
motivated by it being meaningful and the people that they're doing it with.
Yep.
Therefore, he doesn't use that as the leading metric to lead and guide his team.
Yep.
And I think that's what you should take away from that. Don't confuse internal healthy metrics that you're looking at as maybe a leadership unit or as a business group or as investors with how you should run the team. And this is why private equity guys are historically terrible at running companies, because they don't understand people. They understand financial modeling and financing, and they think everybody's just a number on the balance sheet until they realize that change that they want to make is going to impact 100 people's jobs. And more importantly, there's going to be blowback for every single one of those jobs that gets lost and cut into the next layer, to the next layer. Because you've heard me say this before, work is neither created nor destroyed inside of a business. It's just displaced. So you lay off 100 people, that work still exists. Somebody else just took on more stuff. They didn't just axe the department. They axed the people in the department. And now that work up kind of parlayed over. So that's the entrepreneurial side of Taki coming out, right? That like private equity people just really suck at, or MBA students who've never really run businesses suck at, right? Managers versus leaders.
Yeah, that's a great take, man. That's really good input. I love the both and piece, meshing them together and saying like, what does health look like? And from a performance standpoint, but to Taki's point, the people, like you can tell healthy relationships didn't, you can look at a guy's children real quick and be like, nah, doc,
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
all right, last one here before we wrap her up. So this is a marketing lesson for the left. I think the election, there's a lot of ways we could take the election and I've seen people come out and say, well, it was bad marketing. The left only focused on this. It's obviously not just marketing. Marketing played a role in it because they're using various different means of communication, but give the people more credit, right? The people were it's a bit deeper than just marketing. Trump's team wasn't just better marketers. It was these people were bad leaders. It's like, so like, let's just be real about this and producing no results. So, but there were two things that I wanted to share that I thought were great forms of communication of the conversation that's coming out over the last week that is finding itself harder to happen. But these two people did a great job of sharing along the way. This first guy, Sean Johnson here, he said on X, this is one of my favorite ones I've seen. He said, I voted for her. I think he's a bad guy. But if you lose the Senate, the House, Electoral College, and popular vote, and you think the lesson that half the country is racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, and stupid, wrong lesson. And the same thing will likely happen again in 2028. That goes beyond marketing, right? And then this last one here from this gentleman, his TikTok name is Young Black and Wealthy.
Real quick, I just want to point out, we've said this multiple times, but the biggest problem is lack of personal accountability. And so that is a testament of lack of personal accountability. It's I'm going to point outward instead of look inward.
Yeah, facts. All right, last but not least, we got Young Black and Wealthy here. Here we go.
This country is racist. Yeah, looking at this map, you can clearly see that the country is racist, homophobic, and woman-hating because the entire country came together and voted Trump back into office. Yeah, like white people, black people, Asian people, Indian people, Mexican people, gay people, straight people, women, Latinos. Wait a minute. Some ain't adding up here. But the people from MSNBC and CNN and The View said that it was black men's fault, white women's fault, everybody's fault. Maybe America was just fed up with high inflation, open borders, war, neglect of the American people, fear-mongering by the Democratic Party, prosecuting your political opponent. Maybe they just were just fed up with that. Maybe everybody came together because they're tired of extreme leftist policies. I need to stop watching CNN, MSNBC, and The View.
Got him. So
Yeah.
that's it, man. It wasn't just terrible execution and marketing spend. It was people stop underestimating people. The worst thing a leader could do in any position is underestimate his people or her people.
And it goes back to everything that we've just talked about, right? As it relates to authenticity, right? Like how disingenuous can you be throughout an entire campaign, right? How disconnected from cultural relevance can you actually be?
Yeah.
How can you misappropriate the data that bad, you know?
Yeah. And how can it be so disrespectful to not think that people couldn't see through it?
Yeah.
That
exactly.
piece is like you couldn't, like, really? Like, okay, you know, we're just gonna push her through. It worked before. It worked in 2020. It worked before. We can do it again. They don't realize in 2020 you woke up millions of people to the nonsense. I don't know if you saw my tweet with like the difference in votes between Kamala and Biden, bro. This is the different. I ain't gonna take the pod there, guys. I'll leave that for another time. But
we'll talk
like,
about it.
but literally, the difference in votes is astounding. And Trump actually got less votes than he got before. And it's like, you're telling me that was the most popular president in the history of the United States of America, and he didn't even make it to the election. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The data isn't adding up.
Yeah. Well, going back to marketing math, data plus storytelling equals conversion. You ain't converting me with that one because the story you're trying to tell me and the data do not add up.
Yeah, 100%.
So, all right. That's the pod, brother.
Yep.
Thank
Good
you
work.
for tuning in.
Yep. Till next time.
All right. Later.
Peace.